One of the greatest myths and misunderstandings about ADD or attention deficit disorder is that it is a condition that affects only children and it makes them underachieve at school and that they often outgrow it. And today we have invited a specialist in this area to dispel this myth. ADD is very much an adult condition as well. Good morning and a very warm welcome to Bonitas House Call here on SABC 2. Mafrika Boramat, Kerekatiba, Hotawa Hayaka. I'm Dr. Victor Ramathesele. We invite you to call us on 083-913-4687 with your questions and comments on ADD, or you can send your SMSs to Bonitas 33723. We're joined in studio by Dr. Shebeer Jeeva, yes, a South African as Boerewors, but internationally qualified psychiatrist and a global practitioner in matters ADD. Dr. Jeeva, once again, thank you very much for joining Bonitas House. You always fascinate me because you yourself are a person who lives or affected by ADD, and you have chosen this to be an area of speciality, almost like saying, it takes a thief to catch a thief. Is that why you got interested in this?
Yeah, actually, that's totally true. But I did my diagnosis post-mortem. I got into all the SHIT, SABC, say that I shouldn't use that word already. And then I realized, wow, this is the definition of ADHD.
Yeah.
Always in trouble. And my chief said it's chronic, unexplained underachievement. Mine is not underachievement, but in the relationship to ourselves, we lose a lot of things. The doctors and lawyers in the States who are ADHD earn 22% less than their colleagues because they don't cross their T's and they don't dot their I's.
So it is
you are successful.
attention to detail. Right?
Yes, you are successful, but you cut corners and you don't follow protocol and you procrastinate and you have problems with time management, organization, procrastination, financial management. So that's why you lose.
So at some point in your training, as you are reading and studying ADD, you kept on saying, hey, these people are talking about me here.
Yes, yes. When I was becoming a child psychiatrist, I said, wow, this boy was exactly like me. He was charming, charismatic, naughty, in trouble at school. Not his marks, but his behavior. His marks were fine.
And your son also has
yeah, but my son has the dreamy kind. There's three types. We use the word ADHD. There are three types. One is the inattentive type, which is the same as the old ADD. We don't use that word ADD. The inattentive type is the dreamy type. And in school, they call these kids, you mean, like they're not focusing, they're lazy. And there's a title of a book, you mean I'm not lazy, crazy or stupid. There's the dreamy kind, they don't have energy. And most teachers and doctors and parents will misdiagnose that. They won't see it because there's nothing wrong, she's just lazy. Put her in the back of the class. Then there's the very active one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
And the most
they disturb everybody.
Yes, and the most common is the combined type, the type I have, bits and pieces of everything. So we hear there and everywhere, fight on TV, on radio, fighting with somebody, eating here, entertaining here, flying here, this, and try to reverse boredom, because boredom is the hallmark.
But let's go back to what brings us here today, that in a lot of sense, that a lot of people have been led to believe that this is a condition that affects children. It makes them underachieve at school. There's never been an idea and an inkling that this can actually be an adult condition. So there are many adults out there roaming the streets, roaming parliament, roaming the business boardrooms, roaming everywhere, who are actually ADD.
Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Richard Branson, Will Smith, Einstein, Kennedy, myself, the whole lot, all the TV producers and announcers, everybody around. So it is a condition of magic, but it's not picked up. 70% of these kids go on to adulthood. 82% of them develop other conditions in adulthood, so they are misdiagnosed. They are treated for the adult conditions and the ADHD is missed. That's why it takes longer to pick up and diagnose, and they constantly get into trouble. So there's three kinds of ADHD. There's the inattentive one, there's the active one, then there's combined type, and they have three clusters of symptoms. One is the inattention. They have problems with time management, organization, procrastination, financial management, and they look lazy and dreamy. The other one is very impulsive. They get angry, they have road rage, they have fight with their girlfriends, fight with their bosses, fight with their wives. They have problems in all these three areas. They have addictive personalities. They love speed. They have a need for speed. And the last one, the hyperactive one, they overschedule themselves. They're always working. The girls type talk too much. Talking too much is a very powerful symptom. So all these things get us into trouble. And relationships.
So if you come across a chatterbox, you must know that you're dealing with ADD.
Yes. If you chip all the time, look at it. They qualify for ADHD. If there are 6 symptoms and you need 50%, if you talk too much and you look for the other symptom, that's enough. You don't need the rest.
If you don't treat them, what happens to them?
They get into various difficulties. In adolescence, they get into substances, they can get anxiety, they can get depression, a certain percentage also switch over to bipolar. Very, very high percentage get into substance abuse. More than 30 to 40% of the substance abuse patients in the world and higher in South Africa are ADHD untreated.
We'll talk about Robin Williams a little bit, but let's see a little bit more about the adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADD or ADHD. Let's watch.
Attention deficit disorder.
It can be devastating.
Adult attention deficit disorder.
Without a proper diagnosis, ADD can ruin your life. It's sort of like having a Ferrari engine for a brain. But there is one problem. You have Model T brakes. The most common reason an adult comes to see me is that they're underachieving. Flashes of brilliance, but then periods of completely blowing it. And they don't understand it. For the life of them, they keep trying and trying and trying, but they get these inconsistent results. So unexplained underachievement, not only in work, but in relationships. Marry the right person and find the right job. And adults with ADD often make the same mistake in both domains. They marry and work for a caricature of a bad 5th grade school teacher. They marry and work for someone who is controlling, demeaning, picking, and someone who doesn't really like them all that much, because they got the idea around about 5th grade that that's what they needed, that they were a hopeless case. So they had to be ridden herd on. They had to be controlled. They had to be demeaned and put down and so on and so forth. So don't do that. Marry someone who loves you. Marry someone who loves your upside and is willing to help you with your downside. Okay, having said that, the tremendous good news is if you get the diagnosis and you get proper treatment, not only can you avoid all those disasters, you can achieve spectacular success.
We also know for sure that this disorder, when looked after, can make someone very functional.
I mean, you can be at the absolute pinnacle, not only in terms of success, but happiness, fulfillment, a rich and wonderful life.
I mean, it's a Hall of Fame, and I would rather be ADD, man. If you've got all of those people, Richard Branson, Michael Phelps, I mean, all super achievers in the world.
Why not?
So why do you want to treat this condition, I mean, if these people are doing so well?
Because majority of them are under treatment. As he says, Hallowell, that's the father of ADHD. I train at the Hallowell Center under him also. He said Ferrari brain and bicycle brakes. So the brain is normal and high IQ, so parents shouldn't worry that the kids are stupid. No, if they're failing, there's something else, either learning difficulty or some part of the ADHD. It's the brakes that's missing that you need to treat. Because if you're very active, you can get into trouble, you can tell people nonsense, you can have road rage, you cannot sit still and all that, you get in trouble. You're very inattentive, you're dreamy, spacey, lazy, the teachers don't like you because you're boring, you're not paying attention. And in marriages, they don't like you don't like me because you're not paying attention to me, or you got a temper on the active side. So you need to put brakes in. If they're dreamy, spacey, you put a dynamite in, you put the medication to, or this other holistic treatment, or if they're too out of control, you put brakes, because we get overstimulated, we get too excited, and then we can get into trouble. When somebody says no, then we attack. So we don't want to first react. If we get frustrated, we shouldn't react, we should think, and that the brakes help you think, and the brakes is part of the treatment. That's why you have to treat. You stay on track. Otherwise, you could go off track. If you get something exciting, if you're coming from Pretoria to here and on the way there's some action happening in Midrand, you'll just stop there instead of coming here.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no. I know such people. But hang on. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves. Now, you were here some 3 years or so ago, and you had just established your practice, and it had attracted a lot of criticism from your psychiatric colleagues who had reservations about your methods of treatment, who had reservations about the high dosages that you're using in your patients, who had reservations about the manner in which you involve other organizations and other healthcare practitioners in your arrangement. How have you weathered the storm?
Yeah, most of it we have. Actually, it has been, South Africa has been magic for me, most of it, in a sense that we exclusively, I do ADHD, all age groups, and we do holistic treatment, so we have different other therapists with me, psychologists, coaches, dietitians, exercise regime, all the things, and it's worked out quite well. We had a program in the hospital system, but we brought it into our office. It's doing very well. We're very busy. Our patients are doing exceptionally well. The important thing is we spend a lot of time with the patients. I myself am ADHD, so it's easy to know what they're going through. It's also easy to know the side effects of the medication. I'm taking my medication for 21 years, and the best medication in the world in ADHD, possibly, is hoping to come to South Africa in December. So we're very excited about it. It's called Vyvanse. It's not here. So we're going to be having exciting times coming ahead.
It's a new form of treatment.
Yes,
yeah.
But the holistic is very important. We're going to spend time later on in the session explaining about the changes in the holistic treatment. So
it's not only about medication.
No, medication,
like you say,
medication is just like glasses. You're not blind. Without it, you'll still survive, but you'll have a hell of a hard time. You put on your glasses and your life opens up. The doors open up. So the medication treatment, as Hallowell says, it's like glasses. It's not about medication. ADHD is not Ritalin. ADHD is real. They found a gene, DRD4.7. They found genes for ADHD.
So it means it runs in families.
Yes. So in 2.5 years' time, we'll have tests in our office where we can pick up the genes and we can diagnose it for people who are skeptical. Because we have a lot of problems in South Africa. People are still very skeptical about it, and there's sort of opposition and not enough support. They found genes, and in medicine, when there's a gene, there's a treatment. And in psychiatry, when there's a gene, there's a treatment. And doctors, the main treatment they would use is medication. So they'll just spin around all the medications. They don't make new stimulants. I mean, Ritalin is over 70, 80 years. We don't use much Ritalin.
Okay, I have to handle this Ferrari, the Ferrari with the bicycle brakes. Hey, one is, if I'm so to a car and that, it's a hard metal cola, we'll leave a wahaba kapahari, hadn't to meet Milana. We'll hear more about how Dr. Shebeer Sheikh deals. Did I say Shebeer Sheikh? Dr. Shebeer Jeeva. South Africa is a very interesting country. How he deals with the ADD in his practice and all other the institutions that he partners and interacts with.
The key to it all is education, what you're doing right now. Once you get a handle on it, all the negatives can be turned around and you can become phenomenally successful. So don't be afraid of getting the diagnosis. The only time to be afraid is when you don't know what's going on. By far, the most common reaction when someone gets this diagnosis is relief, then a feeling of anger. Why didn't someone tell me sooner? A feeling of sadness. All these opportunities I've missed. You let out the anger, you let out the sadness, and then you jump on this wave of enthusiasm and excitement. Now, have I had to learn strategies to deal with the downside? Sure. But those are learnable. Whereas the upside is not buyable or teachable or procurable in any way. All of those kind of qualities, the charisma that are so commonly associated with children and adults with ADD, those can't be taught or taught. I really think it's important to embrace a strength-based approach that does not in any way deny there is a downside, but that emphasizes the positive as a way of developing the positive.
Mzingababa awufikanga ugadalekile sibamba ngazimbini futhi sihlabela mgama ngengalodliwa nohlebe nale ndoda wena engenasigezo kanobomi xa kuthethwa ngalo mcimbi ke walesigulo i-ADD apha ekuhlaleni, attention deficit disorder the Dr. Jeeva way. Gakona go nagana le rona ka tlhamalo mo 0839134687 kgotsa mafaratlhatlha SMS simolola ka mafoko Bonitas and then 33723. Quite interesting. I mean, in the South African context, you know, ADD is a condition that is associated, at least in areas where I've worked, with stigma. Now, the father of ADD said when that diagnosis is made, actually, in his part of the world, it is greeted with a lot of relief. Now, do you still find that it is highly stigmatized in South Africa?
Yes, awareness is improving, but still we have over 50%. We have a lot of resistance at all levels, from parents, teachers, even doctors, and friends and colleagues. Yes, so education is ultra important.
But don't you think it is a little bit overdiagnosed these days? That when teachers are supposed to give scholars, you know, individualized attention, maybe with mathematics or some of the numerical subjects that they're battling with, they're very quick to say, put him on Ritalin, put him on Ritalin. Don't you think that is also a thing?
Well, it appears sometimes that I encourage teachers, don't talk about Ritalin, tell the parents the child is different from other kids, he should be assessed. So we should encourage them to send them to somebody who has an interest and specialty in ADHD to be assessed. Don't talk about Ritalin. It's not the job of teachers to talk about Ritalin. The job is to say your child appears bright but is not doing as well as is expected to do. So would you consider having him assessed? And then they go to people who have an interest, people like us and whoever has a special interest. And things are changing in North America. Now you even have a choice of changing your doctor. If your doctor doesn't know enough about ADHD and is not interested in ADHD, you don't get stuck to your doctor. You go where you get the best treatment and the best assessment.
Speaking of which, let's look at this SMS quickly. I don't like the idea of taking prescribed medication. What other alternative treatments are there for ADD?
Okay, the treatment of ADHD is not medication, it's holistic, it's total, everything. So the most important is education. That's what we just talked about. So we have a good website. The internet has a lot of things. We do a lot of talks in schools to teachers, to parents. We have articles in newspapers. We're on TV, which we love to be with Dr. Victor all the time. So first of all is education. Secondly, many of the skills that these kids need, we have coaches. So in our office, we have 2 ADHD coaches. They teach you skills like for adolescents, adults, time management, organization, procrastination, financial management. Next is diet. For the last 30 years, everybody has been jumping and screaming about diet, but the latest work is the diet doesn't cause ADHD and doesn't treat ADHD. A bad diet makes it worse, a good diet helps it. So the newest thinking in the world is about diet. Next is sleep. If you don't sleep properly, you're in trouble. You get restless the next day, you get irritable the next day, you fight with the teachers, you don't concentrate, you fight with your girlfriend, you fight with your boss. So sleep is ultra important, and sleep is also connected to obesity. This is all new work. And the most important treatment of ADHD is exercise, exercise, exercise. Because in ADHD, as we said in the last show, there's a low level of dopamine, which is for focus, and a low level of norepinephrine, which is for impulsivity. So exercise increases it, prayer increases it, meditation increases it, all of these holistic treatments increase it. So exercise...
So you become more focused and less impulsive.
Yes.
But hang on. When Dr. Shebeer Jeeva, when I say when I'm self, how are you managing your ADD?
Well, I've taken my medication for 21 years. It's doing good.
Which medication?
I'm taking from the States the Vyvanse, but I've been in South Africa for there's different medication. I'm taking a stimulant, and it's doing exceptionally well. Then I do my exercise. I try to eat protein diet. I'm trying to meditate. I've just come back from the States from the ADHD conference, and the latest work in the world is mindfulness training. It's a form of meditation, even in children. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon. It's not like yoga and long-term focusing, which they can't even sit still. It's like you pause and self-awareness. You look at what you're doing, what you're thinking. So twice a day, these kids, they spend about 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, taking a break, or these adults, and they found it's helping even more than, sometimes even more than medication.
Are you on Ritalin?
I mean, something different than Ritalin, a stimulant.
Why not Ritalin?
Because Ritalin itself, for myself, it makes me very angry. I was on this in the TV show one day with Nolene, and she asked me a question, and I was about to answer, and you guys stopped from the back that time is up. And I was so angry, fuming inside why they stopped me. So I take the smoother form of Ritalin, which is Concerta. I took it most of my life, and now I'm taking Vyvanse from the States and Canada, which is not officially into this country yet. It should come here by November. So that is smoother. Every patient takes different things. If you've seen one ADHD, you've only seen one ADHD. They're not all the same. Medication is just one of the tools. If you are in trouble in one of 3 areas in a child or one of 3 areas in an adult, then you've got to take out your weapons. In a child at school, with your siblings fighting or not having friends. In an adult, fighting with your wife, at home fighting. In your marital problems with your boss firing him, or socially people not liking you, then you have to treat. And the holistic treatment, everything else might not be enough. The exercise and meditation only lasts in the morning for 4 hours effect. So you need help all day. That's why you might have to supplement it with medication.
Now let's talk about Ritalin specifically. I mean, it has received a lot of bad press. Do people abuse it somewhat? Or
yes, Ritalin is in a tablet form. It's as old as the 1930s. So it is still one of the better medication if the diagnosis is right and you use it properly. The problem with Ritalin, we had a bad name of diagnosing ADHD in the beginning. Minimal brain damage, minimal brain dysfunction, so it made everybody all sparky and scared. But Ritalin comes out 50% in 1.5. The typical 10 milligram tablet comes out 50% in 1.5 hours, 50% and drops in 1.5 hours. So in 3.5 hours, it's finished. So it comes out aggressive, so it makes you a bit agitated. Occasionally, it can make you a little sad and dysphoric. It can suppress your appetite, it can suppress your mood. Then they made a longer Ritalin, then they made Ritalin LA, but the Concerta is smoother and longer. So we're trying to get it more smoother, more user-friendly. But inside the medication is identical. It's the same molecule. Both are methylphenidate. All four, Ritalin, Ritalin LA, Concerta, and Ritalin SR are all methylphenidate. They're all the same drug. The release is different. 20% of patients' stimulants won't work, so you have to use non-stimulants. Even in the stimulants, the majority of patients might do better on Concerta, others might like Ritalin more. Every patient is different. Sure, it had its side effects, but there's very little stuff that can do the magic. In North America, we have amphetamines, and we're hoping to get it here in November. That will be very exciting times.
I have to keep stopping you because I'm dealing with an ADD myself here today. So, but hang on, Robin Williams, what actually happened? You said he died recently, bless his soul. But you are saying he committed suicide. So clearly he had some issues. Yeah. He was a known ADD.
Yes.
Unfortunately not treated.
Yes, self-treated.
And do you think that contributed to his death somehow?
Totally. Robin Williams is one of the best comedians in the world, late. And I always use his clip, Mrs. Doubtfire, where he's an ADHD marriage. He's always in trouble, and his wife is a perfectionist, and she fires him, and he has to rehire himself as Mrs. Doubtfire to work for his kids, for his wife. So that is, Robin Williams in real life is and was ADHD. So he has ADHD, bipolar, he had a dual diagnosis. Years ago, he had some treatment, and then he had several problems. He stopped his treatment, and he started self-medicating. He started using smoking, then he used substances like drugs, and in drinking, and he got self-medicating through substances, all the stuff. Then he had mega problems. He had financial problems. People were cheating him of his money. Further, he had...
Because you say you guys can't handle finances.
No, we have problem with time management, organization, financial management. We know how to make a lot of money, but we don't know how to look after it. We don't know. We lend everybody our money, and we don't know who we loan our money, when is it going to come back. So he had cardiac valve surgery, so he became depressed because of that. Then he had several affairs and relationship, being promiscuous because of the excitement of ADHD. And then he had, as I said, valve surgery. And lastly, what most people not knowing, he was diagnosed as early Parkinson's disease. And only 2 years ago, he gave a talk on suicide about another actor. He gave a comment. He said, suicide is a short-term answer to a long-term problem. So the problem is not gone, and he's gone. He's dead. He hung himself. It's sad. It's
so the lesson from that is
the lesson from them, you get early diagnosis and early treatment. Don't stop your treatment. ADHD goes on to adulthood. If he continued his treatment, he wouldn't have needed the substances.
When we return, we are going to be joined by two individuals whose lives have been changed rather drastically by the handling of ADD through all of these methods that we are discussing with Dr. Shebeer Jeeva today. After the break. Welcome back. You're watching Bonitas House Call here on SABC 2, and today we are talking ADD, the Dr. Jeeva way. But the proof of the pudding is in eating it. In this regard, we are going to test this method by interrogating people who have used it. Sunel Page and Sean Morphew have taken their time to share their experiences. Now, ladies, thank you very much for joining us. Quickly. How did you get to know Dr. Jeeva?
He treated my husband, who was unable to work due to ADHD.
You didn't know that at the time?
We didn't know that. He was 42 when he was diagnosed by Dr. Jeeva, so we didn't know that.
What was the problem?
He could not concentrate very well anymore. He had brain fatigue, brain overload, and he's a brilliant scientist who studied at Oxford University, his PhD. He worked in the USA for 14 years, and then just slowly over a period of time, his concentration diminished, and he became more and more anxious, and eventually it was so bad that he couldn't work anymore.
But that we can blame to testosterone, which usually declines at that age. So what are so alarming about his condition?
But not to the level that you get crippled and you're not working.
He couldn't work anymore?
No, he had an Oxford degree, he had a Cambridge degree, he worked at the Space Center in the States, he was doing magic, and then he couldn't work, and he got all sorts of treatment. He couldn't work for 5 years.
And you made the diagnosis of ADD. It means he had been having it the whole time and it was never treated. And what did he do to him?
He prescribed a combination of medication that just did magic. It brought him back to what he was and actually better. I often tell my husband these days, I've been married 21 years, I tell him I like and I love and enjoy him now more than 21 years when we got married because of the medication.
But when I looked at her, I mean, since she arrived here, I mean, she's quite hyperactive herself. I mean, is she also a cast member?
I don't know, talk to her. Ask her. First of all,
I'm asking the doctor. I'm gossiping here. Come on now, Dr. Jeeva.
you're doing your work well.
Yes,
Give her a chance.
Yes, no. Dr. Jeeva is also my psychiatrist. I have more obsessional or compulsive disorder that I can get a little bit obsessive about things. So I am also a patient of Dr. Jeeva. But my concentration is not a problem. I can just get hyperactive when I get a little bit obsessed about something.
We'll come back to how this thing is handled between couples. And you, my dear,
Yes.
thank you for you came all the way from Cape Town this morning. I mean, we really, really appreciate
The
you
wonderful
making the
city.
trip. And I've been talking about. Now, how did you get to know Dr. Jeeva?
Sure. I hit a crisis in my life, complete meltdown.
Serious?
And I started looking for help. My family were kind of not helping, not able to help. They didn't know what to do at that stage. And I had a complete meltdown, landed up with addiction problems.
And what do you mean by crisis, meltdown? I can hear you summarizing this, but for the sake of people who are watching, I mean, maybe it's important to
my
give us
career. I shut down my business. I wasn't coping. My relationships were failing. You know, I broke up with my fiance, and we had the economic crisis. I wasn't coping with the workload, and it just, I was being taken advantage of, very naive, impulsive, you know, just not thinking about the things that I'm doing, hanging around with the wrong people. And it just got to a stage where I wasn't coping, and I was trying to use other things to cope. And at that point, I needed some help. And I started looking for Dr. Jeeva online. And I was very, very lucky to find him.
Why did you look for Dr. Jeeva? You had seen him on Bonitas House Call or Nolin Show. I mean, he's not, you know Dr. Jeeva, he's all over the place. He's on this radio and that radio. And I'm pretty much the person who discovered him, but it's okay. We'll have that discussion at some point.
I mean, he is now, but I have a lot of friends who, you know, I've met who are ADHD, and they don't know anything about a doctor or anyone where they can get the treatment or where to go to. I mean, they're quite stunned that there is anyone who can help them, which is why we need some awareness. There are many young people out there who are self-medicating, who are not coping, and eventually they reach a point where it's burnout, or you're leading to even death, suicide, you know, landing up in a very bad situation where, you know, you can be injured, or it's
pretty much
it's
some
sad.
of the things that you described earlier before the two ladies, I mean, arrived. I mean, battling with relationships, financial management, a very good career, money coming in, but you can't keep it inside, people taking advantage, naivety, impulsivity, associating with the wrong crowd. I mean, exactly, I mean, telltale signs, classic textbook definition. So she lands in your rooms, and what do you do?
Go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah. So I started going on treatment. The treatment is an absolute must. It's completely and utterly changed my life.
So you made the trip from Cape Town, came
Yeah.
to Johannesburg to see Dr. Jeeva. Why not see that Melrose Arch is elsewhere now?
Yes.
I mean, Ziyakhuphuka kumfowethu, so it's not a posher place, but good to him, because I mean, he's really getting to be very, very, very busy.
Yeah.
He used to go to Canada also to consult. He doesn't go there anymore. He doesn't want to earn in dollars. He's happy to be in South Africa. And we're grateful for that, yeah.
Very.
Okay, so he put you on treatment.
And I went through the 10-day program, which was phenomenal. So I got a chance to learn, you know, a lot about my condition and about myself. And as I said in the latest Women's Health magazine, there's an article about my life.
Today is
So, the
Yeah,
current
this
one,
month,
okay.
yeah.
No, excellent.
I wrote about the fact that I had that aha moment with Dr. Jeeva, where suddenly I understood myself and I could, you know, really see what I'm about. And it was such a relief to know that somebody understands what I'm going through, and that there is something that can be done to channel all my qualities and my attributes in a positive way and to get the best out of it, instead of it becoming a negative thing. Because without treatment, you can't channel your, all your attributes and your qualities in the right way. You end up all over the place.
Now, tell me this now. Now that, you've had this very interesting story, and I'm going to ask you a little bit later about how you're coping now and how successful you are, which is obvious. But have you found yourself in some ways, even when you're sitting on the plane or you're sitting in the cinema and you see people who say, hey, this is one of us, but it's just that maybe they don't know it? Have you found yourself diagnosing people also as you walk about? Is it with much more,
people
finesse
find
than
me.
Mm.
I've had people coming up to me in a bar and saying, I'm ADHD, and I know you are. Or, I'm ADHD, and they just find you. They don't necessarily see that you're ADHD, because when you're on treatment, you're a lot calmer. Things change a bit, quite a lot actually. But people, ADHDs find each other.
But do you see
personality-wise?
Do you find other ADHD? Can you notice or recognize other?
I can straight away.
Distance, yes. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what he's
even
saying.
more so now, because with the medication, everything slows down. So I pick up on things that I never could pick up on before.
that so?
And that's what he's talking about with the glasses.
Yeah.
It's that everything slows down, and now you've got the time to pick up on what's going on around you.
Interesting.
It's a whole new world.
And this has affected your career positively?
Yeah, well, it's like a light bulb that goes on.
What do you
literally.
do now? What do you do now?
Well, I'm in acting. I'm in the film
so,
industry.
Autographer, yeah, okay.
I can't say too much because obviously, we can't talk about some of the shoots that we do. They haven't been released.
Yeah.
But there will be some things that will be coming out, so hopefully you'll be watching me.
Watch this space. I will definitely be watching. Now, one of the interesting, Dr. Jeeva here is divorced. Yes. And I'm sure if we have time to talk to him about it, indications and chances are that the ADD that he has contributed to a large extent to that situation. As to whether he will remarry or not is a subject that him and I will, it's a boys' talk that I will have with him at a later stage. But what advice have you got for spouses or even romantic partners of those people who are ADD, some of the things that you have had to deal with, some of the challenges, and how you have, dealt with those challenges going forward?
On Dr. Jeeva's website, my husband posted a testimonial, and he said himself there on the website that he was difficult to deal with due to his short temper and his stubbornness. So in addition to not being able to work for 5 years, he became more and more stubborn, more and more short-tempered, and also he had a co-occurring condition with anxiety. So he became very anxious and didn't want to socialize with people anymore. So that caused us to become socially very isolated. He didn't want to visit friends or invite friends over. We were living in the US at that time, so we didn't have family close by. So it had a very negative effect on me.
And yet all he had was you.
Yes.
So you had to provide support on all aspects of his life, I suppose, and that can be taxing.
That was very, very stressful. I think the two things really helped us during that time. We are best friends. We are soulmates. So I think that helped us not breaking up. Also by God's grace, lots of people praying for us. But there was, towards the end of the 5 years, I told him that I wasn't willing to stay married to him any longer. I said, I don't care if you ever work in a professional capacity again, but I wasn't willing to deal with his short temper anymore. It caused too much distress and pain in my life.
And that's probably one of the reasons that drove him to go and consult a professional.
Yeah. And that is the advice I would like to give to spouses, that sometimes you have to force your spouse or your life partner to go and get help, because oftentimes they don't realize they have a problem. They don't want to admit they have a problem. And even if they realize and admit it, the next step to go and see a psychiatrist is a very scary step. And a lot of people feel you must be crazy, you know, before you go and see a psychiatrist.
Manje wavele wayikhomba le bhari wathi indoda mawungayi kudokotela ngiphuma kanje. But anyway, we'll continue our discussion on ADD with Dr. Shebeer Jeeva after the break. Welcome back. Ngwane so sa tswela pele ka selo sa letsatsi mona Bonitas house call go SABC 2. Lenane o le busetsang naka ka tlung. Pele ka jone here buisana ka bana ba no tlokwa re ha ba utli ba lasta au ka nte di khutsana ha ba iketsisi ba na mathata teng ko one re buang ka ona tsa ka jene. Now, one of the major problems and Dr. Jeeva will have us believe with people who have your condition is time management, and the biggest problem is actually in the morning set. In children, that's when parents fight. I mean, with these guys, they battle to get out of bed. When they get out of bed, they spend an hour just getting ready. You know, when other kids would have taken 20 minutes, they take an hour. And they can't account for a lot of the time that gets wasted in other areas. Did you find this to be a specific problem, and how did you deal with it?
You're looking at one. Complete. I'm always late.
You're always late?
Yeah.
Even now? Or
Well,
it's better now?
It's better now, yes. I have to make an effort to be on time. You know, there's always work that goes into it with ADHD, but it has improved, and I find myself being on time and sometimes early. And then I'm completely amazed. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's that aha moment again, you know, I'm actually on time for once. I really struggled with that. School, work, always in trouble, you know, almost losing my job over being late.
Now, other than medication, I mean, punctuality, I mean, is a major issue in modern times. If you're a pilot and you're not punctual, I mean, you can imagine how many people get inconvenienced, you know, and many other spheres. Now, we know that medication will deal with the problem, but what other support services or ancillary services would you put in place to get these guys to cope, at least with one punctuality and financial management?
Okay. We have coaches, we have ADHD coaches, they help you with self-esteem, they help you with skills like time management, organization, procrastination, financial management. Then we have accommodation in various jobs that are open-minded. You can get accommodation. Can you have flexi time? Can I start later? Can I work through my lunch? Can I finish early or something? You're not expected to be on time as long as the work is done. So you should disclose to your employer very early if you're not in trouble that you have ADHD, because the government SARS allows you a deduction for the disability financially because the treatment is expensive. Secondly, the schools.
Oh, it is allowed. Is it?
Yes,
allowed
it's
as a
official disability.
Yeah,
we have a
but
form.
you can't get mundenda. You can't get a pension from social development because of ADD. Oh, okay.
Well, eventually you're supposed to, but they deduct all your expenses of coaching, gymming, your medication, your consultation, whatever expenses in learning about the condition, books and whatever. So people should use this. We have a special form where they allow it as an official disability. You can even claim back 3 years. So SARS in South Africa is quite advanced. They've helped us in that way. It is an expensive treatment. Secondly, the coaches help you with all these skills. 50% of the kids have problems falling asleep and having difficulty waking up. If it's severe, there is medication treatment. If it's not severe, then there's social skills. You use your computer, you use your phone, you use your wife, your spouse, your boss, whoever is going to wake you up. And in a short while, Sunil has got a fascinating mechanism how to wake up in the morning.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
It's
Tell us about
amazing.
it. So how do you manage the mornings? Because
it's
this
amazing.
obviously is a very difficult time for people with ADD. How do you manage it?
No, I have a trolley system. I actually have next to my bed, I have my tea, my kettle and my cups there.
Next to your bed?
Yes, and then I just press the button and I can make my tea in bed. I even have an egg cooker next to my bed where I can make my eggs. So all to help you wake up. And so while you're slowly waking up, you actually can have your breakfast and in bed. And my husband and I now, even though, you know, the medication has helped a lot, we now enjoy it so much that we've, continuing the tradition, even though with medication, it's less needed. But yeah, I've learned certain coping mechanisms to help with that in the morning.
One of the things that Dr. Jeeva always says is that the common feature among people with ADD is one addiction or the other. It could be addiction to chocolate, it could be addiction to alcohol or substances, it could be addiction to sex, it could be addiction to many. Did you find yourself, during that time when you actually did not even know what was wrong with you, that there were certain behavioral patterns that you were obsessed with or that you were, in inverted commas, addicted to somewhat?
Some coping mechanisms. I would be obsessive compulsive about cleanliness, organization, because if I'm not organized, I basically don't cope. If things aren't in place. So I get very upset and very worked up about, where things are. Get into fights with my family. I mean, massive arguments and misunderstandings as to, people moving my things around.
Addicted to anything?
And addiction, I wouldn't say I ever became addicted to substance, but I was susceptible to using substance. And at one stage, I was definitely self-medicating. I had nothing at the time, and I did find that stimulants were something that kind of actually calmed me down. But unfortunately, you've got the side effects if you're not dealing with prescribed medication.
We're not talking about it today, but I know you've been on public platforms talking about sex addiction. Is this necessarily a problem with people with ADD?
Oh, definitely, because ADHD, we have a shortage of dopamine and norepinephrine. And dopamine works on the pleasure center of the brain. So if you're lonely, bored, tired, listless, you need something to feel lekker. So you're going to go and find your lekker stuff. And the lekker stuff is chocolate, coffee, Coke, Red Bull, drugs, alcohol, Tiger Woods, SEX. All this makes you feel lekker. And there's no test saying which one lekker you're going to choose. We're going to push you towards exercise, meditation, prayer, possibly medication. So those are the good lekker. The unhealthy lekker is on this side. And so they tend to get more promiscuous, they tend to be more into affairs, and they get, the main problem with ADHD is relationships, because we're either very fiery and fighting, or we're dreamy and flat, or but we are very charming, charismatic, and we attract people, and people attract us, so we pick up the people that can get us into trouble.
But you said you guys have a tendency to attract the wrong crowd, and people who take advantage of you.
Yes.
And how does that happen?
Because it's written here, a poor me or something, I don't know what's written.
Low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem is the main dynamics of ADHD. And where does that come? Parents raising these kids in a CDE environment. They criticize the child, they demand from the child, they expect from the child. Your marks are bad, your marks are bad, your marks are bad. When is the next test? Tuesday. Tuesday I demand 80%. Tuesday night, like real estate agents, where's the marks, where's the marks? So people demand, criticize, expect from us all the time, and we cannot deliver. So it comes
criticize, demand, and
expect from us. So we cannot deliver to parents, to teachers, to girlfriends, to boyfriends, to your bosses, to customs, to income tax, because we're always late and we're always missing deadlines and getting us into a lot of difficulty, and that is ADHD.
So why do you always find yourself attracted to people who are abusing you? I mean, how does that work exactly?
No, but they might have possibly got into difficulty themselves, but they are more vulnerable to any sort of healthy or unhealthy relationship. So we get into people that we find at a common level, because they might also have a self-esteem, because we don't like people who criticize us, who put us down, who constantly are obsessive and controlling us. So ADHD men and women usually marry spouses who take charges and who control them. But instead of becoming their spouses, they become their mothers and fathers. And it creates a problem in the relationship. So as long as you are non-criticizing, non-demanding, non-expecting, we like you.
Your husband, does he show any difficulties with some of the side effects of the drugs that he's using, or he's been coping up to now?
I think it takes a period of time to adjust the medication, and that's very important to know. You can't just start with something and then it will be, from the start exactly the right combination. That's what we really love about Dr. Jeeva. He's really willing to experiment with different combinations till he finds and you find something that really works for you.
That works for you.
Yes.
Because it has to be tailor-made to the individual. He
Exactly.
said no two ADD patients are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So each and every one has to have some treatment that is tailor-made for them.
That's
Hellwell said, if you've seen one ADHD, you've seen one ADHD.
Yeah, you must say if you've seen one, you've seen them. Bandala kwethu singabayixeka le gege ngathi amazenze abongila ngilapha ngilaphaya abangahlaliseki neze eklasini masithi mhlambe sithi amahlonga ndlebe kanti hayi onkabi laba bazenzisi bayagula kwangempela badinga usizo nanoswelo. Now we'll round up our discussion with Dr. Shebeer, Jeeva and ADD when we return. You're watching Bonitas House Call here on SABC2 and welcome back. Now, a lot of people are watching today's show and they're sitting there and say, hey, I can see myself, I can see myself, I can see my son, I can see my daughter, I can see my father-in-law, I can see my colleague at work. What advice do you want to give them?
Get treatment, definitely. See a psychiatrist and get a life coach and go on treatment. You have to go on treatment. You have to get a life coach. The two go hand in hand. And, you know, you've got to change the way that you live. Your habits have to change. So you need someone to coach you. And the medication makes a massive difference. I mean,
Exercise. He spoke about
and
exercise.
well, that's the lifestyle. That's where the life coach comes in. That's to learn, you know, healthy habits versus unhealthy habits. And yeah, I would say those two are really important.
Your message?
I would say learn about the condition. Once you understand it, you know how to cope with it better. The spouse must also learn very much about the condition so that he or she can understand why is my husband or wife acting the way. And also, I help Dr. Jeeva to arrange talks at schools so that the community at large can learn about it.
Dr. Jeeva?
Well, as you know, it's a genetic condition. So if your child is ADHD, look at the parents. So treatment is for the whole family, not for the child. Secondly, there's a low level of dopamine and norepinephrine. So that means that we have to treat it. It's a medical condition. It's no more, do I want to treat or I don't want to treat. You have to treat it if you want a better life, a better quality of life. So early diagnosis, early treatment, and there is treatment. The success rate is very high, and it's an injustice to the child or to the family if you don't get treatment. Side effects of medication, every medication in the world you have side effects. That's not a problem. We're not talking about Ritalin, we're talking about treatment. And things are changing dramatically, and we've got great treatment. So please come out and go to your doctors or change your doctors if he's not keen on your having ADHD. Find somebody, go on our website, go on the internet, you'll find somebody who will help you. There's great help, and if you've got nothing else to do, exercise a lot.
Sean, I'm very excited in how your life has turned around. I'm also very excited about some of the new things that I'm doing. And I'm also very excited that in the next few weeks or months or so, I'll be able to point at a movie somewhere and say, I know that one. Good luck in your career. And thank you for having taking the courageous step. First, to present yourself for treatment, to comply with your treatment, and also to make all the way to come and share your experience with us. And also to your husband, all the best. I mean, it's amazing that he had succeeded all the time, and suddenly things began to change. And it is only then and then only that, you know, you took the initiative and you put him under pressure. But thankfully,
No, but he was
to
on various treatment in the States that didn't work, wasn't right.
Yeah.
So he saw all, tell it.
He saw different psychiatrists for 3 years. He saw psychiatrists, psychologists.
So misdiagnosed.
They misdiagnosed him.
Until he came to this psychiatrist.
Exactly.
So your challenge today, you've got to create more and more and more and more of Dr. Shebeer Jeeva, because there's only one of you and we have to look after you, but you've got to train more people out there, more workshops, more lectures. But all the same,
This
thank
is
you
the
very
gym.
much, Dr. Shebeer Jeeva. Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you very much, Len. Bana beso, ho rona bohle barati balatedi, ba tshehetsi ka seana le bathasedi ba lenano lena. Boy manu ke bohle ba rona kaofela re nalo lena ke la lona. Nnete ke ya moroho le tswa ke baki. Re santse go le ka nna he le tsa senda ka jeno. We'll be back next Saturday with another interactive show right here on SABC2 at 8:30 in the morning. Thanks for joining us today. For me, Dr. Victor Ramathesele. You take care.